We have a CEO Fireside chat. The topic is remotivating our people to succeed in challenging times. I'm pleased to invite Phil back to the stage with a very exciting guest, Ravi Kumar, the Chief Executive Officer of Cognizant, recently appointed this year. But please, everyone, give it up for Phil and Ravi. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hopefully we'll have some exciting conversations. So it's been one long day, probably one of the first industry events we've had since 2019 in this space. So a lot of folks have stuck around to hear a few words from Ravi Kumar.
So. Sure, thank you. I did, this is my last meeting for the day before I board a flight. I thought the traffic in New York was bad, but London was worse.
Well, we just done a deal. We've extended the train strikes, right? I think.
Yeah, the train stations are good. Okay. I think the trains are better than New York. They're better than New York, for sure.
Good stuff. So obviously, some of you know Ravi, some of you will not. I've known Ravi for many years, and he recently became the new CEO of Cognizant, which is a $18 and $19 billion, 18 and a half, 19,
20.
Something. 20, okay.
At about close to 20.
Close to 20. Wow, it keeps growing. And I was lucky enough to be at his coronation recently in Abu Dhabi. And it's been an exciting time for the company. But maybe, Ravi, do you want to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your career and what you were doing to get to this point?
Sure. So I joined Cognizant in January. I think it's such a wonderful platform. The tech services companies of our size, you normally take 40 to 50 years to get to that size. All of them who I know of that size have taken 40 to 50 years to get there. Cognizant got there in 25 or 26 years. So it's a company built on entrepreneurial spirit, great camaraderie, and a founder's mentality. Very, very empowered, decentralized, but equally very closely knit. So it kind of sits in that confluence of the two, which makes it a very beautiful combination. It's also one of the first companies which, in some ways, like what Amazon does, you flip a cost center to be a revenue center. That's how AWS was born. Cognizant was born from a captive, which was serving a corporate, and they flipped it around to make it a revenue-generating engine, and that's how the spirit of Cognizant is. It's also one of the first companies which actually built a confluence of industry and technology. It doubled down on technology on one. So you have players on the spectrum all the way from deep technology to deep domain. Cognizant always had this unique spot of a confluence of technology and domain, and hence an extraordinary depth of capability in healthcare, life sciences, financial services, and hopefully we can do that in other industries. It's important in the times we are living in because every industry is becoming a tech industry. So that confluence is really going to help us to serve our customers much better. It's also one of the best examples of a local capability merged with a global work pool, global talent, of course, from in centers in India. We actually have the second largest workforce in India after TCS. TCS is much bigger than us. So it's a confluence of so many things which kind of came together to create this unique, differentiated spot in the market. And I think in these times when every industry is a tech industry, I'm pretty sure that that confluence is going to help us to stay differentiated. So I'm like very excited about this platform and the heritage of this company, and you know, it's a closely knit group, so the good news spreads fast, the bad news spreads faster. So very excited to serve that firm.
Yeah. There you go. So what inspired you to take on this new adventure?
Sorry?
What inspired you to do this?
I can't think of a better platform to express myself. It is, you know, I actually think it is. It's a company which deserves more multiples. It's a company which deserves top quartile growth, and my endeavor is to actually take it back to that position.
So let's talk a bit more about the industry. It'd be good to get your perspective on this, but you know, we're in a situation where a lot of enterprises are very determined to pay pre-inflationary prices, drive down cost, but they want to transform really fast now, and they want innovation at the same time. So how do we actually deliver on this? I mean, what do you think needs to change in the model of services to move things from where they were to where they've got to go?
You know, there's some kind of a digital dichotomy, if I may. Digital technologies were used for creating an extended reach to enterprises. That's what happened in the last 10 years. And it was focused around the consumer, and probably now it's going to be focused around the employee because of hybrid workplaces. Classical technologies was what was outsourced on a lock, stock and barrel managed services contracts. And classical technologies were always commoditized, and they're constantly evaluated for productivity and cost takeout. And that's why the outsourcing industry was like a, you know, it was like a industry which constantly focused on reducing cost for our clients. And this was an era of globalization. For the last 40 to 50 years, enterprises were globalizing, and technology was just an enabler around it. And that enabler of technology was outsourced. So it was mostly non-core for businesses. And because it was, you know, I hate to call it non-core, but it wasn't the core product or core service. So when you do something like that, you're looking for leverage, and labor leverage was the reason why there was so much offshoring combined with outsourcing. I think I call this a dichotomy of sorts because right now, on those classical technologies, you apply new age digital technologies to take out more cost, not just related to traditional leverage like offshoring or traditional leverage like labor arbitrage, but more of actually making it a human plus machine endeavor. So the application of automation technologies, the tooling and instrumentation you have now at your disposal to do that, gives you a bigger opportunity to take out cost and more productive and more real time. In fact, I can go to the extent of actually saying that you could even digitize operations of companies. In fact, that's one of the reasons why most BPO companies or BPO services are back in vogue, because not because of cost, also because you could make them much more digitized and much more tech enabled. So the technology you apply on that stuff, which is enabling your business, is always going to be, you know, either powered by you know, new age digital technologies or more labor arbitrage or a bunch of things. There are new tools now which are related to digital. So that part of the digital story is still about taking cost out and still about making more productivity. There is a second part which has evolved in recent times beyond just using digital technologies for an extended reach to enterprises. That second part is also about changing the core of companies. An automotive company today outsources, as an example, the first part and takes it away and gives it away to providers, and providers like us, to do managed services. And and hopes that we not just do labor arbitrage, but apply digital technologies. Equally, the same automotive company wants the connected car initiative to be co-created along with us in a different operating model with a different demographic of people, deep programming skills, but they wouldn't outsource it. They would co-create along with us. They would use us as a partner to amplify their potential. And that is because that is their core. They don't want to give it away to somebody and not be a part of the iterative process through which it will go through. So the two swim lanes which have kind of got created, both need digital technologies, but they both are serving different purposes for companies, and therefore I think there is this dichotomy, one used to reduce cost and the other used to actually create more innovation capital attached to it. Sometimes the smarter clients are saying, you know, there are two swim lanes, take the savings of the first, underwrite it to the second. What we are not going to fund it. If you can commit and underwrite the first, you fund the second and take the risk on your end. So that's, you know, that's how digital technologies kind of have a role to play in both sides. And you could take bold steps of underwriting those savings and making it worthwhile for your clients.
Okay, yeah, and obviously a lot of this is about creating big learning organizations within providers, and you've built a career out of partnering with academia, striking deals and opening new centers and all sorts of things. But what do we need to do next in terms of bringing talent into this industry, getting them excited about working in services versus going to the next startup or going into the Mang businesses and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so you and I discussed about it in one of the other events. Most of the hiring which happened in the technology business last year was also hoarding of talent, so which is getting offloaded now. In fact, if you look at productivity in the last, in 2022, there are world productivity metrics which actually say that productivity went down. It went down not because people were working less, it just went down because everybody had more human capital than what they needed. And they kind of have started to offload it now. In some ways, people were, I think clients, enterprises were worried that, you know, there will be shortage of human capital. I think the tech services industry, because it traditionally catered to classical technologies with lower cost, transitioned from, over the last 40, 50 years, from tier 1 schools to tier 2 schools to tier 3 schools to probably now tier 10 or untiered schools. They aren't the most attractive employers. You know, they weren't the most attractive employers if you wanted to build a career on technology, because it was a downward slide. Now I believe the smarter ones have created these swim lanes inside where you can actually work for deep programming, for core product engineering, and you can build a career equivalent to what you build a career in a digitally native company. So the cross-pollination of talent between, you know, startups or big tech companies and tech services companies is actually going to be higher than ever before, because you're going to have people with deep programming and software engineering skills available doing product engineering, which you could have potentially done otherwise in these companies. So in a way, that cross-pollination of talent, if you look at the attrition matrix of tech services companies, you will see the loss of tech services companies, the loss of people in tech services companies, the two big tickets where people used to go to other peer companies or they used to go to business schools for higher studies. Between April to June is the highest attrition month because people go to business schools. That is going to change. Now people can crisscross between tech services companies and startups, tech services companies and digitally native companies, and large enterprises which want to set up their own captive in countries like India. India is going to add 2 million IT professionals in the next 3 years. 1/3 of them are going to come from 300 global capability centers which are going to be set up in India. And these are companies who think tech is so core to them, they will not outsource, they will insource. Car companies are outsourcing their HR systems. They're building their own captive for connected car. So that cross-pollination of talent will happen because of the fact that we have software engineering and core engineering skills. It's a good and a bad thing. The good thing is we could attract from there because they're all offloading people now. The bad thing is we could lose if we are not a good employer to not just our peers, to other companies who are not like us. And also our clients. Our clients we can lose. In fact, our clients now want to do build, operate, transfer with us because they want us to build because they want to build the maturity along with us, and they want us to transfer the people once they establish their global capability center. Frankly, that's not a cannibalization. That's a strategic opportunity because you don't actually oppose what is right for your client. You kind of have to do it because it is strategic for them. So I think that's one reason why you'll see cross-pollination. The second reason why you'll see cross-pollination is in the past, tech services companies only hired algorithmic and, I would say, in some ways, programmatic skills. Now they're hiring heuristic and creative skills. Because when you're working on digital technologies, we are co-creating with your clients, you're also hiring heuristic and creative skills. So the breadth of capability which tech services companies have, you could cross-pollinate more. So creative skills can be cross-pollinated to other industries. Heuristic skills can be cross-pollinated to other industries. I don't believe that STEM skills are the only skills needed. Non-STEM skills are needed more. And in fact, if automation technologies and AI technologies, if ChatGPT is going to write Python code, what are we going to do? So we will then have to start to think about the next big problem and think about finding problems versus solving problems, which is an endeavor workplaces never had. Workplaces were built from the Industrial Revolution to solve problems, not to find new problems. But we will actually end up finding new problems so that the machines can solve them. So I think that will allow us to cross-pollinate. Plus, the tech services industry has the biggest learning infrastructure in the world. There is no other industry which has so much of learning infrastructure, B2B learning infrastructure, which the tech services industry has. So if somebody else is offloading, we can reskill and repurpose and build it. There are only 28 million IT professionals in the world. And if every industry is a tech industry, where are we going to get people from? We have to get them from other industries. Mid-career shifts from other industries, a teller of a bank, a check-in counter of an airline, where there is no upward mobility of jobs. All this great resignation which was happening, it was happening in industries which did not have upward mobility. Even today in the United States, 4.5 million people are leaving every month. 4.5 million people. Everybody keeps wondering where they're going. But 4.5 million people are leaving every month. But where are they leaving from? Healthcare, hospitality, hotels. They're fed up doing $20 per hour jobs. Why? They're okay to do it for a few years, not to do it all their life. So somebody has to create a bridge. And we think the learning infrastructure of tech services companies, all of us have done it in some way, experimented with it. We can scale it. The world needs not just 27 million developers. The world needs like maybe 50, 60 million developers in the next 4 to 5 years. Where are they going to come from? They're going to come from unrelated industries where the upward social mobility is low. And the digital divide which technology has created can actually be bridged.
That's right. A lot of people dropped out of the workforce during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And the government in the UK have now announced increased child support to get people back to work.
Labor force participation in the UK is 60%. Labor force participation across the world is in the range of 60 to 63%. Because work is orchestrated in full time, 8 hours a day officially. So everybody is not available for 8 hours a day. They have other things to do, and it wasn't, it was not, workplaces were not built to be diverse and inclusive Because if you have to go to a physical workplace for 8 hours a day, not everybody can access it. So I think going back to what you just said, if we reset the whole format, and hybrid workplaces is a reality now, it's going to be harder to be hybrid. It was easier than what we thought remote was. When we reset the hybrid workplaces, we're going to see labor force participation going up. People who've retired will come back for a few hours. Actually, the number of people who retired in the last 3 years across the world has gone up. So people who've retired will come back, do a couple of hours. People who could not access work because work was in urban centers. Work is now in tier 2 cities. Back in India, 50% of the tech services workforce is in tier 2 cities. 50% of the tech services workforce is in tier 2 cities. They are not going to come back. They have actually gone back to their parents' homes or their families' homes, and they find it convenient. So they're not going to come back. And if you call them back, they will go and join a peer of yours who will actually give them a job for the same client. So they will have to see the same person in Zoom and get a different paycheck. So they're not going to come back. So Cognizant is wanting to redistribute its real estate in tier 1 cities to tier 2 cities. We're going to repurpose and redistribute it. We're going to create collaboration centers so that, in the United States, 25% of the bookings on Airbnb are for work. These are people who are fed up with their living spaces to do work, so they're going to another Airbnb to do, but not to the workplace. So you are going to see more redistribution of lives and work, and work is going to move to tier 2 cities. And when that happens, access to work will be much more, labor force participation will go up. I think the tech services industry can be leading that narrative for some of the other industries to follow. Every industry can't do this because some industries are physically orchestrated. But the other day, I was in the National Governors Conference talking on workforce, and I heard this very interesting comment. Microsoft was looking for some data centers to be established, and they were trying to set it up where construction workers are available, not where technology workers are, because construction workers are not available. But why would somebody go into the construction industry if it is going to be so hard to have a good living? You can only do so provided you can create bridges to other industries which have upward mobility. So I think that's the template which will follow.
Yeah, good. So one last question, I think, around, your first big job as CEO of a $20 billion provider. Where do you think you can impact the most, both short and long term?
This is a interesting industry. The first thing I've figured out working in this industry is between clients and employees, we have self-reinforcing virtuous cycles. If employees are happy, they stay with you, the clients will come to you. Clients will come to you if the employees stay with you. It's kind of a self-reinforcing cycle. You have to put them onto that self-reinforcing cycle. If you're on that cycle, it's a very easy job. If you're not on that cycle, it looks like you can never be on that cycle. So that's my job, to be on that self-reinforcing cycle of clients and employees. Actually, today, one of my clients was saying, more than a client, you should have fans. So we are a fan of yours. So I really liked it because I said, wow, this is like a different template. You almost have to make them fans. They have to be a fan, our clients have to be fans of Cognizant. That's how it is. The second thing I would believe is you have to see what the others are not seeing in your company, because you're at a vantage point to cross-tabulate, connect the dots across the people you meet. You meet policymakers, you meet clients, you meet employees. And that's not a big virtue. Because of the vantage position, I will see what others don't see. I will see what is coming. The bigger virtue is if I can make them believe what I'm seeing, they're not seeing. That's a bigger virtue because you can create a multiplier on that. The third piece, which is true for most tech services, true for Cognizant, is the 25, 30,000 people who run our programs and our projects. They walk the corridors of our clients. They actually talk to our associates every day. We have to build trust with them. Otherwise, there is no chance to create a multiplier effect. Our associates go and ask them, by the way, I've got this job, should I leave? I want them to say, don't leave, I'm hanging around here. If they start to say, you know what, I'm also looking out, you should leave, then there's nothing I can do, even if I'm the CEO of the company. So I think building trust with that layer and making them live the microcosm of Cognizant, I think is a big virtue. These are a few things I'm like excited about. I always feel once you do this on a rhythm, you know, employees and clients will be in those self-reinforcing cycles.
Yeah. Good. And then, so ambitious professionals who dream of leadership roles in the future, what do you think are personal traits that maybe make you who you are that other people need to understand?
Personal traits. Okay. So, you know, being vulnerable is a good trait. Whenever whenever I'm vulnerable, I can expose my weakness, and I can punch above my weight because I'm then paranoid, and then I create positive energy around it, and then I actually do much better than what I should. So being vulnerable is not a weakness; it's a strength. Ask for help. That's big learning for me. You could be in your own skin and feel comfortable about it, and you could actually embrace rejection. And if you can do that, you know, you feel very liberated because you're not under pressure, and then you can deliver. Whatever you deliver, you'll feel good about it, and you'll always punch above your weight. Surrounding with people who are not like you, feeling happy to work with people who you disagree, I think is a you know, it's something we all should learn. We all should be surrounded with people who are not like us. We should be able to disagree with them, but still feel happy to work with them. You know, growth will come in heterogeneity, and that heterogeneity is to surround with people who are not like you. Working in uncomfortable zones and making yourself comfortable about it. These are things which I feel these are things which I have always embraced, and it has really helped me personally. And yeah, have fun working, and you know, make work your passion rather than whoever has said this, that go and follow your passion. I've not figured that out. Just make whatever comes my way my passion. So you know, I can follow my passion, I'll never make it. I would rather follow my work which becomes my passion. It's kind of, these are things which I've used, and it's worked so far. So
Good. Well, I feel much better about being vulnerable and paranoid. This is great. Well, does anyone have a question for Ravi before we? I know he's got to get to the airport soon, so, but maybe speak on. Yeah, you want.
Yeah. Ravi, good to see you again, and congratulations. So you talked about the swim lanes, right? If you take our industry,
we've all been in this industry 20 odd years. It's gone from being organized by technology to being organized by geography to being organized by vertical, and now we talk about swim lanes where there are theses that companies are building around. End clients are an auto company and a telco is converging on connected car and so on. So where do you see this industry being organized or structured, let's say 3-4 years from now, as in terms of structures?
yeah, you know, when I joined Cognizant, the first thing people asked is they thought you're going to do a reorg, right? or you have to bring your own people, or stuff like that. It's very easy for, first of all, the first thing any CEO does is trash the predecessor and then get a runway, right? Or, you say, baseline it, saying we need to do a reorg. It's hard to say which structure will work because some structures work in some companies and same structures don't work in other companies. Just the culture of every company is so different. The one thing I've always figured out when I've moved jobs in my previous role, in my previous organization, I moved many jobs in the 20 years, or the current one. I've just figured out if there are layers in the organization, then it is a flawed organization. There's no other principle I've used. If there are only two constituents in my organization, they are employees and clients. If to get to an employee, you have to go through multiple layers, or get to a client, you have to go through multiple layers. And those layers build over a period of time because every organization kind of, creates those layers to keep people happy. So delayering that setup to get close to your stakeholders is the only organizational structure I felt like is going to work. Now, once you put that principle, then you go to the culture and do what will work for that culture. And that's been my principle. And I think that's the easiest way to know whether the org works or not. Otherwise, every week you get a new story about the org structure which might work. But the design principle of saying I'll delayer it to my stakeholders, as far as I can get closest to my stakeholders, and then the rest is about the cultural nuance to fit it.
Good.
How do you balance the speed of execution with being sensitive to the organization and the teams at the same time, right? Because, sometimes, I think you got the question.
That's a great question, actually. Clock speed is the biggest, tech services is a fast follower industry. It's not an innovation industry. Anybody who thinks it's an innovation industry is getting it wrong. It's a fast follower industry. It takes tech cycles, tech waves, and it follows it, and whoever relentlessly executes it wins the race. And you don't need to invent another tech cycle. You just have to wait for the next tech wave and follow it again, predict it early, follow it again, and just go behind it. So I think, therefore, clock speed in this industry is much more important than any other industry. See, if you go to a software company, the development cycles of software are a different velocity to the speed at which you sell is a different velocity. But in tech services, the clock speed gives you the market share and the wallet share. And then it starts to level play, and then you look for the next one. Now, executing to a change, you always have to pace it with results on the way versus waiting for the results to actually come at the end of that period. So again, nobody has patience. Employees don't have patience, clients don't have patience, investors are the ones who don't have any patience. So you will have to pace the results and create reasonable leading indicators for you to say that you are actually in the right direction. Then everybody is wanting to stay invested into it because they see that it's going to happen. So my biggest challenge is that, I have to pace the results in a way that I can keep all my stakeholders invested into the narrative I have actually presented. Versus saying it's going to come, hang in there. Nobody's going to wait there. So quick wins, pacing the results is, I think, the most important way to get clock speed or pace of execution. Because once people buy into it, then I think it's easy. Because then employees are going to hang in with you, clients are going to hang in with you. That's the challenge of any change which you go through.
You have two questions. Hi Ravi, my name is Praveen. So this question is more around tech services industry. So do you see a role of chief AI ethics officer in especially companies like Cognizant or those who are heavily
AI ethics?
AI ethics officer, chief AI in the invent
No,
of
I think it's a good,
Chat GPT.
yeah, very good
OpenAI?
question. Very good question. See, most AI technology which is going to be built can do two things. It can replace humans or it can amplify humans. If it amplifies humans, it creates jobs of the future. If it replaces humans, also it creates jobs of the future. But it takes away jobs of the past. The biggest challenge is, if it really replaces humans, then it has to be ethically responsible. It has to be responsible AI. Now, most of the work which has happened so far by big tech companies which are building tech, building AI tech, haven't focused on the responsible piece. They've focused on building it and discovering use cases. And system integrators have supported it to discover use cases. The third leg of the race is the responsible AI piece, which nobody has worked on. And that is the consulting piece which will show up when, I call it the re-engineering of the enterprise. It's the new wave of re-engineering of the enterprise which is going to happen now. If enterprise software 30 years ago engineered and re-engineered enterprises, you're going to see a second wave of re-engineering using AI. And responsible AI is a huge consultative opportunity, which I don't think has been researched enough. And frankly, if you really think this is going to become very mainstream, that is the piece missing. So you're absolutely spot on. That is the piece missing, because there, the judgment of who you say, if you're giving a mortgage to, if a human is deciding on, giving a loan to somebody, a mortgage decision, versus a machine deciding a mortgage decision based on data, there is going to be an element of responsibility attached to it, where you don't be biased on a bunch of things which you see on the data. That piece is less researched. I would believe that will be the missing link to make it more mainstream.
Good stuff. Well, Ravi, this has been
I can do one last one. There was one there.
Do one more?
Can wrap it
All
up.
right, one more.
Hi, Ravi. What keeps you awake in the night from on professional front?
I sleep well. I don't lose my sleep. That's the last thing you should do. This is a long haul, right? You don't run this like a sprint. And if you run this like a sprint, you'll get a big break because you'll lose your job, and you can sleep enough. But you can never be in that state saying I want to lose sleep on something. Of course, you should be paranoid about things, but I've realized that it's also physically very onerous, because you're traveling, you're not with your family, you're going from one meeting to the other, you're always managed, so it's almost like a snow day or a rainy day. Friday afternoon, one meeting gets cancelled, you almost think, you feel so happy. It's almost like going to school. Oh, it's raining today, we'll not go to school. It's almost like that. So that small break makes you feel good. So therefore, you shouldn't lose sleep. You should be for a long haul. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good pleasure. Good job. That's great.
Interviewer plays an important role, because if you say something for the first time in your life, then you start to believe that it's the interviewer and not you. Thank you.